What do pilots actually do during takeoff? And is it as automated as we think? For many of us, the takeoff process is a mystery. We feel the plane accelerating down the runway, and before we know it, we're soaring into the air. But have you ever wondered what's really going on in the cockpit during those crucial minutes? Is it a highly automated process where the pilots just sit back and let the computers do the work? Or is it a complex and highly controlled process that requires skill and attention to detail? The answer might surprise you. While automation does play a role, the reality is that pilots are incredibly hands-on during takeoff, constantly monitoring and adjusting the plane's systems to ensure a safe and successful departure. And here's the surprising part. Even with all the automation, pilots still have to be able to take control of the plane at a moment's notice, which means they need to be fully engaged and focused throughout the entire process. So let's dive in and find out what really happens during takeoff and what pilots are actually doing to get us safely into the air. Vocabulary: automation, cockpit, departure, acceleration, computers. What happens before the plane even starts moving down the runway is just as crucial as the takeoff itself. And it's a process that's often misunderstood by passengers. Before the plane begins to roll, pilots go through a detailed checklist to ensure everything is set for a safe departure. This isn't just a casual run-through. It's a carefully designed process that covers everything from the position of the flaps and slats, which are like the plane's wings fingerprints, uniquely set for each takeoff, to the autopilot systems that will help guide the plane once it's airborne. And here's the surprising part. It's a carefully choreographed dance between the pilots and the aircraft systems, with each pilot having a specific role and responsibility. One pilot will typically handle the radio communications and navigate the checklist, while the other pilot will focus on setting the plane's systems and monitoring the instruments. This division of labor allows them to work together seamlessly, like two musicians playing a well-rehearsed duet. By the time they're finished, they've essentially configured the plane to be a finely tuned machine, ready to tackle the demands of takeoff. So, to answer the question of what pilots are doing before takeoff, it's not just a matter of flipping a few switches and hoping for the best. It's a meticulous process that requires attention to detail and a deep understanding of the plane systems. And that's what makes it so reassuring for passengers, because when you're on a plane, you want to know that the people in charge have done everything they can to ensure a safe and successful flight. Want to know more about what happens next? Vocabulary: autopilot, choreographed, fingerprints, rehearsal, division. What happens once the plane starts rolling down the runway? And do pilots really just sit back and let the autopilot take over? This is a common misconception, that once the autopilot systems kick in, the pilots are just monitoring screens, waiting for something to go wrong. But the reality is far more complex and interesting. Think of autopilot like a highly skilled co-pilot, assisting the pilots with specific tasks, but not actually flying the plane. When the plane lifts off the ground, the autopilot system starts to help the pilots with things like speed, altitude, and heading, making tiny adjustments to keep the plane on course. And here's the surprising part. Those adjustments are based on the pilot's inputs, not the other way around. The pilots are constantly flying the plane, making decisions and adjustments, with the autopilot system helping to refine and stabilize those inputs. It's a bit like having a really skilled navigator in the car with you, who's helping you stay on course, but you're still the one behind the wheel. And this collaborative process between the pilots and the autopilot system is what makes takeoff so remarkably safe and efficient. So, to answer a question, pilots aren't just monitoring screens during takeoff. They're actively flying the plane with the autopilot system providing crucial support. Want to know more about what happens next as the plane climbs to cruising altitude? Vocabulary: autopilot, altitude, heading, navigator, efficient. What happens when the plane finally lifts off the ground? Do pilots get to take a breath and relax? Or is their workload just getting started? As the plane takes to the skies, pilots' workload actually increases. And here's why. They need to closely monitor the aircraft's performance, making sure everything is running smoothly and efficiently. It's like a chef in a busy kitchen, juggling multiple dishes at once, each one requiring precise attention to detail. And just as that chef needs to navigate a crowded kitchen, pilots need to navigate through potentially crowded airspace, avoiding other planes and obstacles while following a precise flight path. They also need to communicate constantly with air traffic control, receiving and responding to instructions, all while keeping a sharp eye on the plane's instruments and systems. It's an incredibly demanding task that requires intense focus and teamwork. Imagine trying to solve a complex puzzle while having a conversation and driving a car at the same time. The good news is that pilots are trained to handle this intense workload, and they work together as a team to ensure a safe and successful flight. So, to answer our question, pilots' workload is just getting started when the plane takes off, but with their expertise and teamwork, they're up to the task. Vocabulary, workload, airspace, navigation, communication. What happens when something unexpected comes up during takeoff, and the carefully planned script doesn't quite fit the situation? That's where the human factor comes in. The pilot's ability to think on their feet, make quick decisions, and use their experience to guide the plane to safety. It's like a skilled driver navigating through a sudden traffic jam. They need to be able to read the situation, anticipate what might happen next, and make the right moves to avoid trouble. And here's the key part. Despite all the automation, human pilots are still essential to the takeoff process, as they can react to unexpected situations, make split-second decisions, and provide a level of situational awareness that no computer system can match. Think of it like a high-performance sports team. The automation is like the well-rehearsed playbook, but the pilots are the star players who can improvise when the opposing team throws them a curveball. It's a unique blend of technology and human expertise, and it's what makes air travel so incredibly safe. So, even with all the advanced systems and automation, the human pilots are still the ones who make the difference between a smooth takeoff and a potentially hazardous one. And that's reassuring to know, especially for those of us who might be a little nervous about flying. Want to learn more about what goes on behind the scenes in aviation? Vocabulary, automation, situational, improvising, curveball, reassuring. So, what do pilots actually do during takeoff? Is it just a matter of flipping a switch or pushing a button? The answer is a resounding no. Pilots are highly trained, highly skilled professionals who are constantly working to ensure a safe and successful departure. Think of it like a complex orchestra, where every player has a critical role to perform in perfect harmony. The pilots are the conductors, carefully coordinating the various systems and checks to get the plane airborne. And here's the surprising part. They're not just following a checklist, they're also using their judgment and experience to make split-second decisions that can make all the difference. It's an incredibly demanding job, requiring a unique blend of technical knowledge, situational awareness, and decision-making skills. And that's why flying remains an incredibly safe mode of transportation. The pilots are always on the lookout for potential hazards, and they're trained to respond to any situation that might arise. So, to answer our original question, pilots do a lot more during takeoff than just pushing a button. They're the masters of their craft, working tirelessly to get you safely to your destination. And if you'll never look at a plane the same way, you know what to do. Subscribe for more insider explanations that will take you behind the scenes of the fascinating world of aviation. Vocabulary, orchestra, resounding, situational, judgment. Subscribe.